Well, hello and welcome to episode 245 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela, and we have made it through November. We're into December now, which means we are about ready to shut down for the winter. And you shut things down for the winter, right? They succumb to the cold, to the snow. Things get in ill repair, so sometimes we have to hire on a caretaker to come keep things afloat here at Drink the Movies. So, Michaela, I'm assigning you to come and keep things on track here over the winter. Don't go crazy. Don't pick up an axe. Don't talk to ghosts. But maybe
Good
watch The
advice.
Shining.
Maybe watch The Shining. Yeah. I think if you suffer, and I'm not making light of it. If you suffer from any sort of like agoraphobia, I think that's the one where you're afraid of leaving the house. Then you're gonna love The Shining. However, if you suffer from anything like, I don't know, like temperamental, um, depression, where like as soon as the winter happens, like
Oh yeah,
seasonal. Oh,
seasonal affective disorder,
that
right?
is
Is that what that's
yeah,
called?
that's a real thing. If you suffer from that,
Yeah,
maybe don't watch The Shining because I feel like my entire soul was like "Wah, wah," as soon as I started to watch this movie. It is such a like desperate uh I don't know, like hopeless kind ofness because you're all alone. This caretaker is all alone on this giant property, and it's just him.
it's just
Terrifying. In the
it's
middle of
it's
a
just
snowstorm. It's just
it's it's just him and his highly understanding wife and son there in this huge labyrinth of a building that they find themselves in over the course of the winter. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how the music sounds like Michaela's soul while she was watching this movie. We're going to mix up a cocktail that pays homage right from the source of The Shining, the original source of The Shining. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right back to mix up this week's punch.
so Brian, I don't know if you know this, but I've actually been to the Stanley Hotel, which apparently is where Stephen King was staying. He went and stayed in room, I think 217, not 237, as in the movie, but in 217 he stayed, and I don't know how long he was there, but he got the idea for writing The Shining. So you can go there. I don't know if they're open in the winter. I don't know if they actually close down. They have a lot of high season and low season activities, so maybe they like partially shut down. So that's like a thing, but it's really beautiful. It's in this mountain range. It's up in the Rockies, and it's stunning. And you can go to the bar. They have a bunch of different, like, it's like a resort. But you can go to the bar and you can order something at the Stanley Hotel, which is actually really exciting.
That is really exciting. Yeah, absolutely. So, the hotel here has a bunch of names, right? In the film and in the book, it is called the Overlook Hotel. The book here is written based on the Stanley Hotel, and then there's some other hotels that are used or they're used in filming. We'll talk about that once we get into it. But at the Stanley Hotel, they have at their bar the Redrum Punch, because of course you do. If you're the hotel from The Shining, then you have to pay homage to that book and to that movie as well with a Redrum Punch. So basically, we got the ingredients here. We kind of cobbled together a recipe. If you have ever been to the Stanley Hotel, if you work at the Stanley Hotel and can tell us the exact amounts of these, that would be greatly appreciated. Send it on over. But we thought this was uh, a pretty good ratio here of these ingredients to give you a really nice kind of like I don't know, it's kind of like a luscious like tiki sort of a thing. It reminded me a lot of ways of the Rum Runner that we did for The Running Man. More Stephen King right there. So this ties in perfectly. So let's do it. Let's put one of these together and then we can talk about it a little bit. So into a shaker tin goes 2 ounces of dark rum, 2 ounces of pineapple juice, a half ounce of framboise or raspberry liqueur, a quarter of an ounce of blackberry liqueur, 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice, and then dealer's choice here on the agave. I just used kind of a dollop. I don't ever really measure out my agave. I just kind of squeezed in, just so. But you could do a bar spoon's worth. You could do a half an ounce. Kind of depends on what liqueurs you're using, I think, because
Mm.
those will be varying sweetness levels. There. Go ahead and shake that, and then strain it either into like a coupe glass. That one looks really nice and fancy. You can see like that blood red color that this is. To
Mm.
represent the red rum or the lipstick or maybe what's coming out of those elevators in the film. Sip and enjoy. This one's pretty good, Michaela. What did you think about it?
I really liked it. I definitely uh, I really liked the pairing of the pineapple with the berries, the berry liqueurs. I used Chambord, and I have this blackberry brandy liqueur, and that was really rich. So I'm glad I did. I used sort of a smaller sized bar spoon, a smaller sized eyeball when I was adding in my agave, just because I think that it could have been too sweet. So you
Mhm.
definitely want to maybe add that last. Give it a taste in your shaker, and then add that last before you commit one way or another, just because this could turn very sugary very easily. But I really liked this. I thought it was rich and um, very, I don't know, it was very cleansing. It was very clean on the end. Like and I again, I was really surprised at how much I did enjoy it because of the pineapple and the berries. I didn't know how that mix would
Mhm.
go because usually with pineapple, or you're gonna do something like banana or mango or some sort of tropical fruit
Right.
versus these stone fruits. So I thought that that was kind of nice, just a nice change.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought that it was really good, and kudos to the bar staff there at the Stanley Hotel for coming up with this because in a lot of ways, I mentioned the rum runner. This is kind of like a tiki drink, but with the inclusion there of the raspberry and the blackberry, it takes a much darker turn. It's like taking a tiki drink and turning it over for the winter, as you will. This is a lot
Mm.
moodier, kind of there, less light and playful of a tiki drink, more of a dark and brooding kind of a thing. And maybe you could have this while you're sitting over top of a typewriter, yelling at your wife for some reason. So I don't know. Let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead and mix up another one of these because that's going to be good. The film's long. We need another Red Rum Punch to help us make our way through it. Let's go ahead and mix up another one of these. Take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, The Shining.
I don't suppose they told you anything in Denver about the tragedy we had up here during the winter of 1970? I hired a man named Charles Grady as the winter caretaker. From what I've been told, I mean, he seemed like a completely normal individual. But at some point during the winter, he must have suffered some kind of a complete mental breakdown. He ran amok and killed his family with an axe.
Well, you can rest assured, Mr. Ullman, that's not going to happen with me.
That's right.
Spoiler warning for The Shining. If you've not watched The Shining, you're in for a treat, but we are going to talk about all the things, and I don't know if I would say spoilers. There's a lot of gotchas. There's a lot of things that happen in this, so we're going to do our best. But we're going to talk all about all of them. So if you haven't seen The Shining, you should go make yourself a Red Rum Punch, courtesy of the Stanley Hotel. And then you should go carve out 2.5 hours and go watch this bad boy. And then you should come back and talk about it.
Absolutely. And if you've not seen it yet, you've had plenty of time because it's released in 1980 and it was directed by Stanley Kubrick and it stars Jack Nicholson as the struggling writer turned caretaker, will not be winning father or husband of the year, Jack Torrance. His wife, Wendy, who should probably have already left him, is played by the amazing Shelley Duvall. Their son, Danny, is played by Danny Lloyd. And Scatman Crothers plays Dick Halloran, the Miami-bound chef who is the only one that seems to know what is going on at the hotel and probably should have given Wendy a heads up on that before he left. So there we go. So there we go. This is The Shining. It was based on a Stephen King novel, which released in 1977, and apparently Stanley Kubrick went on a bit of a horror bender after wrapping up his last film there, and decides he wants to make a horror story. So he's consuming all of these things. He gets like an early manuscript of The Shining and decides this is the one that he wants to do. So there you go. I want to talk a little bit about that, and then kind of as we wrap up, we can talk about the legacy of this. I don't know, you could probably count them. There's probably like 100 Stephen King, like book to film, story to film adaptations, right? And pretty much everyone that you see or hear of or read about, whatever the case is, right? You say The Green Mile and you're like, oh, that's a Stephen King thing, right? You say Misery, oh, that's the Stephen King thing. You say It, that's the Stephen King thing. But you say The Shining and you say that's the Stanley Kubrick thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because like there are so many. If you go on Reddit, I mean, at your own risk, people, there are more
Read it
conspiracy
wisely
theories.
out there.
Right, right, exactly. With great power comes great responsibility. If you go and you search The Shining on Reddit, more stuff shows up with this like conspiracy theory around Stanley Kubrick and whether or not this was him tipping his hat that he actually filmed the moon landing and that that's not real. Like there's so many things like where did Stanley Kubrick start to kind of uh loosen his lose his mind as a like creative genius, like when there's a bunch of things around like when he went to visit the Stanley Hotel and how he like decided to come apart like at the scene, like not decided but like all of these lore around this is all Stanley Kubrick. Stephen King is famous for showing being in cameos, like having a
Mhm.
cameo part in almost everything that he does. Sometimes he's like a priest and you see him for like 2 seconds, but he's not in this at all, I don't believe.
Mm-mm.
And so it's kind of neat how this is turned, like usually it's a symbolism of somebody's art form and then it kind of becomes and switches into another. Um, but I will say Kubrick has such a famous like eye for telling very hard stories. Like the visualizations here, whether whoever created those are pretty terrifying for from a storytelling perspective, right? Like we don't hear a lot of I don't know. I don't think I'm making any sense. I'll stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of what makes The Shining special is the aesthetic of The Shining, and we're going to talk about kind of the legacy bit of that and kind of the initial response to the film as well. But this is a Stanley Kubrick thing, so this thing is just dripping in foreshadowing and things that are placed. I mean, you could keep going down that rabbit hole of symbolism within The Shining there if you if you go get on the correct Reddit threads. And there's a lot. And the film starts off with probably my favorite one, which I'll make mention of. But it gets started up with this very long, very scenic kind of approach to the hotel as they're kind of going through the credits a little bit, but you're just seeing this car just driving through like empty voids to nowhere. I think that it was shot up somewhere in Montana, uh, but just this is foreboding kind of thing, and it lasts. It feels like forever. This drive up, and I feel like maybe that's what the drive was meant to feel like. I think Jack says that it took him what, like 3 hours or something to drive up there from Boulder, and I mean you feel every bit of that 3 hours. The soundtrack is going nuts. It is like impending like weight
Mm,
on your soul on this approach, and it sets the tone for the film so great, I think. And then we get into the interview and we're introduced to Jack, right? To Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, who is there at the hotel. uh I'd say to apply, they call it the interview. It's not really an interview. It sounds like he's already pretty much gotten the job. He's just there to kind of meet the head of the hotel, and like his sidekick. I don't really understand what his uh the other person's job was
oh,
supposed to be there exactly, but to get the lay of the land, to be told kind of what to do, and just be introduced, I guess, to the hotel.
right, right. Well, they go through a couple of things that sort of seem like an interview. I mean, basically, they explain what the job is, right? That he has to be there and make sure that things stay kind of lit and take a walk around the grounds once in a while. And they mention that, somebody, they're really glad that this position is now Jack's. But they do mention that something happened maybe 10 years prior, that there was just happened to be a guy who killed his wife and 2 kids with an axe, but no big deal. Like
Big
no
deal.
big deal.
They didn't mention that in Boulder. No big deal. I like Jack's even like he's like, man, I'm pretty glad they didn't tell me that in Boulder because otherwise I would have driven all the way up here.
Right, right.
But then you also get like the foreshadowing bit there as well, right? I think the gentleman that's interviewing him says to Jack something about don't change, or you will change. He talks about change a lot within the character of Jack. So a lot of foreshadowing there because obviously this film is about the transformation that Jack kind of goes through and on his mental decline in terms of the house. So I think that that's interesting there. But he totally brushes it off, right? Like this murder, he's like, oh, I'm glad they didn't tell me that in Boulder because otherwise I might not have come. But then he's like, is your wife going to be okay with that? And he's like, she'll be just fine, which is weird. That's a weird thing to say. Come on, come on, Jack. I feel like you got to get this thing straight. So we go back to Boulder, right? And then we're introduced to the other members of the family. We've got Wendy Torrance, played by Shelley Duvall. We've got Danny, the son, played by Danny Lloyd. And we're kind of clued in straight away that Danny has, I don't know, some sort of like very lightly supernatural kind of thing. I guess the book plays up on the supernatural elements of the story a lot more than the film does, which was one of the critiques of it at the time. But we learn that, right? Like Danny has some sort of, I don't know, some sort of like vision, seeing capabilities. We learn that Jack Torrance has not been that good of a father, right? Previously, an alcoholic had hurt Danny, right? Like dislocated
Mm.
his shoulder. And my favorite bit of foreshadowing, kind of imagery that we get from Stanley Kubrick in this is in the very first scene when we see Wendy. She is sitting at the table with Danny, and she's drinking her coffee from a Tom and Jerry coffee mug, little cat and mouse, if you will.
Mm. Oh, I like that. Okay, I missed that. I missed that. I think it's probably one of my favorite performances of Shelley Duvall. I grew up with her in like fairy tale theater, so this was very stark contrast for me, right? Um, I really love the that we see the relationship that she has with Danny at the beginning. She does tell the story of how her husband was drinking. He hurt Danny, and then he immediately was like, I'm never going to drink again. And that's been like 5 months. So you kind of start to see that this story of this idea of this really picturesque family is not quite so. And, you know, you don't know if Jack, you know, if this is a better job for him or if he's kind of in between jobs or what in that scenario. But you think that, yeah, they're definitely not aligned, right? He's got this idea of hope and she just seems to be hanging on. She smokes more cigarettes in this movie than I think my own mom might have smoked in a whole year. The whole time she's got a cigarette in her hand because she is like, her nerves are just completely shot. And then she goes to the Overlook Hotel and it goes from bad to worse. I think,
Yeah, you mentioned the cigarettes, and the very first one we see her light, I think she's talking to that doctor woman that it's come to the house to check out Danny, and she lights the cigarette, and she just kind of holds it up by her face, and you just see it getting more and more ashen. I don't think she actually
mhm.
takes like a drag off of that first cigarette. You just kind of see it slowly burning, which I guess could be another metaphor for this film because it is a very slow burn. The family gets to the hotel, of course. They go on a tour of this place, and Wendy says, like straight off the bat, she's like, "I'm very confused about this place. Why is it so big? Why is it so much like a labyrinth? Because yeah, this place will swallow you up." Michaela gave everyone a spoiler warning about the movie. She also gave everyone a heads up: if you are afraid of labyrinth type places, don't watch this movie because you will. Lose your mind trying to keep track of where everyone is in this thing. It seems like everything goes in one big circle to nowhere. You never be able to find your way out, just like the hedge maze that is outside, right? The
Yeah.
hotelier there says, "Don't go in there unless you have like an hour to spend trying to find your way out." And spoiler warning for the end of the film there, maybe an hour is too long for some of us in the movie. So I like that. I like they're getting shown around the hotel a little bit. Danny's off like playing. You see him throwing darts, but that's bad because then you get these creepy twins that come in. Another one of these visions, which we learn is called The Shining, something that happens here at the hotel, and something that happens to Dick Halloran, played by Scatman Crothers, the absolute best character in this movie, hands down. He's amazing. I love him. He takes him in, gets Danny some ice cream. We even see a little bit of that shine kind of thing going on there as Danny hears him ask for it before he ends up asking for it. And they have a conversation about this special ability that Danny has. And like I said, maybe that's the time you give Wendy a heads up and be like, this might not be the place for you to spend all winter.
Yeah. Well, and this is where I don't understand the plot point because this older gentleman knows that Danny has the shining. He also knows that places have the shining, right? That this hotel has something as well. And so yeah, he doesn't warn Wendy, he doesn't warn Danny, he doesn't say, "Hey, if anything weird happens, this is what you do," which I would think he would do since he was a person who also has the shining and maybe he had it when he was a kid. Now maybe he didn't, but like I don't know. I thought that he was just like, "All right, kid, have fun. See you in the spring." And it was like, I don't know. And then of course he warns him. He says, "Don't go into room 237. Don't touch
Mhm.
it. Leave it alone, kiddo. All right." And rather than thinking about the one thing that you tell a kid to do is or not to do is the thing they're going to do. So of course he's going to go into room 237. Like why, if you feel that strongly about it, maybe you should like tell an adult, tell another. I mean that piece completely fell apart for me.
He didn't want to speak out of line. This is 1980. He had a good job. He was on his way to Miami. Just
He's
just get
on his
out of
way to
there for the
Miami.
winter. Just get out of there for the winter. That's what
Like
you
it'll
want to
be
do.
fine.
That's what you want to
It'll be
do.
fine.
He's like watch what you're doing, kid. I'm out of here. Enjoy your ice cream. There, absolutely. But Dick Hallorann, great, great. So we're at the hotel. We have arrived. Everyone else has left. And then like almost immediately, like it ticks through the days here, which is one of the things that also plays like on your own like psychological aspect of it because it'll just give you like a random day and give you like no sense of like how long it has been, like how long it has been since the last day. I think like the days even go like out of sequence in a lot of these things. So it's made to play like on the viewer's psyche as much as this place is playing onto Jack's psyche. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the hotel and how it could, I guess, potentially get into the psyche. There's a lot of uh, kind of imagery there, Native American art and things like that. The way that rugs look, the way that the stained glass things are interpreted, and we learned that this hotel had been built on top of a Native American burial ground. That's probably not good. They talk about like the bloodshed and the massacres that happen, like in the attempts to build this hotel, and that is certainly a theme that Stanley Kubrick explores in the movie. And you can go down a whole litany of things that are meant to, kind of reflect that imagery there as well. So the hotel in The Shining is probably the main character, I think. Is that accurate? Would you say that
Oh,
that is accurate?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think that again, Stanley Kubrick does such a great job of showing us without telling us that he's showing us. So we have a much better understanding of how just chaotically terrifying it could be to be stuck in this hotel. It's huge, but it is also like a just a elaborately designed trap maze thing, right? Like
Hmm.
the video of the kid of Danny on his like big wheels running around through the I was about to say through the castle, but it's through all these rooms and he's being followed like the does a beautiful job of following you or following Danny and we see all these weird visions for sure, but just the vastness of this space. And there is just the three of them. And, she can't even go into like a normal kitchen and cook dinner. She has to go into this giant kitchen to open a thing of, a can of tomato sauce. Like,
Hmm.
it is crazy how like empty and like hollow you feel while you're watching these. And of course, they have the run of the hotel. So Danny and Wendy end up staying in their little space. But Jack, he's like, he got a different room almost. It looks like he's got a different room that he's sleeping in. He uses this giant, like, fireplace room to be writing in. And it's beautiful because the lights there, but the room is huge. These really beautiful open shots of the space. And
Hmm.
it looks like Jack is like teeny tiny in this just enormous room. And he's got like his typewriter that's dinging away and like a stack of papers. And it just looks so disturbing because there's nobody and you see more of the space than you do of the character. And I think that creates this ominousness that becomes its own entity in the entire film. So you're absolutely right. I think that the movie, the actual art direction and the way that hotel is portrayed is its own kind of character to be dealt with. Because as you get close to the end, you don't know if the power behind the space, if that's the thing that's driving this, or if this is really just one guy going nuts. And it's
Hmm.
because of the way that area is portrayed.
Yeah, there's a lot of contrast in that. You mentioned kind of the big open spaces, and that is a nice visual storytelling kind of trick, right, to really show off onto someone's isolation. So you mentioned, him at his typewriter at this very long table, right? It's like the kind of long table you'd see in like an old library or something like that, and he's there and very tiny in this small room. And as we see like Jack's descent there when he starts talking with and uh, you know being with these ghosts, he goes into what is the ballroom called? Like the golden
The
room or
gold
something,
room,
gold room,
yeah.
something like that. And you see him walk in there, and we learn early in the film that this is a room that is made for 300 people. So you see Jack in there by himself, and it just looks like massive, right? He looks like a minnow, like in the ocean, like walking through this thing. You'll see him go outside. You see the behemoth of the hotel. Like in the background behind him. Everything is very daunting to Jack throughout kind of this film, the way that it is played visually. And then contrast to that, which is interesting, I always thought is there will be times when they go back to like the office for like the hotel manager's office, which is a very tiny, very cozy, kind of a little room, right? To where he has his
Yeah.
own little tiny desk. He has, the radio, and stuff that in there. The lifeline to the outside world is this very small, very like I don't know, comfortable is not really the right word, but it's a very small, very, very compact kind of space
Mm.
converse to the rest of this huge place that they're finding themselves in. So the hotel certainly I think is its own character, and then the hotel is full of its own characters, right? What's the most famous one probably is Lloyd, right? Played by Joe Turkel. He is the bartender there at the Gold Room, and that's where we're going to see Jack kind of slip off of the wagon, right? He goes in there and is poured a drink, some Jack Daniels, a couple of cubes of ice in there, and we see Jack making the descent. He even talks about the fact that he had given up on drinking for the past 5 months after that accident, and he says it was 5 months wasted. And I don't know. It doesn't. On one hand, it kind of plays into the fact that Jack has fallen off of the wagon, but it also just kind of seems like kind of the logical first step for someone who is about to go down this much darker path that we see Jack traverse down.
Yeah. It's interesting because this opening scene, he's by himself and the bar is empty, and then all of a sudden he's not by himself, he's with Lloyd, and he immediately knows Lloyd's name, which we, as an audience
And Lloyd
member,
knows his.
and Lloyd knows his, so we think that that's weird. Um, we think it's weird that he can be getting drunk when there's nothing to drink. Like how did that happen? And this is where the question of was Jack Torrance drawn here by the house, by or by the hotel and its presence? Was he just the wrong guy on the wrong day that kind of gets swept up in this thing that happens? You really can't. You start to think that the darkness that is surrounding this hotel, the shining, is it nefarious? Is it a good entity? Is it a bad entity? And you start to think about these things because he has a couple of drinks. And then the next scene, I think the very next scene is him um, waking up the next day, and his head hurts, and his wife is like wondering what's going on because she's not seen any of this. And so
Mhm.
you don't know really if it's Jack just kind of having a mental breakdown, or if and he's seeing these visions, or if these visions are manifesting themselves to him and his overly sensitive, kid. Like you just don't know yet.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, and you see them kind of play off of each other because obviously we see Danny kind of having his own visions, which are much darker, right? So he sees the twins, the Grady twins, who from the story earlier in the film are the two little girls that get murdered by their father. They're with the axe. They're played by Lisa and Louise Burns, and that's amazing. Pretty well known. They weren't actually twins. I think according to this, one was 10 and one was 8, which I think makes it all the more kind of unnerving because they do look extremely similar, like they could be twins, but there is enough of a difference where that also is playing on your psyche. You're like, what is the deal with these two little girls? We're seeing the massive amounts of blood coming out of the elevator there, which is full of symbolism too. So Danny is really seeing these visions of warnings of dark things of dangers here in the hotel, and Jack is seeing his visions as probably things that he wants, right? He wants to go and have a drink. He wants to be in this ballroom surrounded by all of these people. He doesn't really want to be with his family. And I think that is kind of the difference in the visions that we're seeing there. And Wendy is more or less just kind of along for the ride, right? It's kind of playing like faux mediator between Jack and Danny, right? And then when Danny ends up getting hurt, that's really when that spiral is going to start sliding down and down as Jack discovers more of the depths and the darker aspects of this hotel, which I think is going to lead into his brain a little bit and start planning ideas for his own decline.
yeah, I think that when we see um I don't I when we start we there's that famous scene, right, where um Jack is trying to talk to Wendy and calm Wendy down. Wendy's really upset. I don't know how Shelley Duvall did it because she manages to be like just incredibly traumatized this whole last half of this movie, and I don't know how long it took to film it. But I love the scene where she's tried to talk some sense into him, um into Jack, into, hey, we should maybe leave. I think our son needs a doctor. We're in the middle of a snowstorm, so we just need to call for help. The phones are out. The only way to get out is to go into that cozy little office and call a sheriff or someone on the radio. But again, either Jack or the house, the Overlook Hotel's presence inspires Jack to dismantle the radio and dismantle the car the little Jeep thing that they would get out down the mountain with. And so they feel like they're really stuck. And then he starts chasing after them. Um, and what I find, I don't know, this part of the descent, right, where it's mixed between like this very tentative relationship he has with his spouse, because she would like to leave, but this is, she can't. But also, Jack is wrestling with that, and then he's also wrestling with other visions that are happening, right? And I think
Hmm.
it's interesting the way that you talk about the types of visions, because Danny is seeing things that are very scary and very terrifying. And at first, Jack is seeing all these really cool and, alluring things that are making him question why, how long he's actually been part of this
Hmm.
hotel, how long he's been
Right.
part of this, right? I love that scene where he's in the bathroom and he's talking to somebody all of a sudden, who he knows and who knows him, and he
Hmm.
says, "Oh, you've always been the caretaker here. What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
And
I think in the bathroom, I think Lloyd goes in there with him the first time, and then he has a similar bathroom run in with Delbert Grady, played by
mm,
Philip Stone, right, who is the original murderer. I mentioned kind of that vision of the things that Jack wants, and obviously the drinking, the big elaborate party, there in the gold room where he can rub elbows. I would
mm,
guess he's kind of this writer author type, and apparently this was a lot of kind of Stephen King reflecting on himself in the writing of this original story. So maybe that was probably it, right? He had just kind of gotten real famous off the backside of Misery, I think, kind of prior to this. So kind of some self visioning there. But even then, when they go to the room 237 there, because that is allegedly where Danny went and got hurt, and he goes and he sees a beautiful woman there, right?
yeah,
That had come out of the bathtub. So like I said, his visions initially are things I think that he's meant or that we're meant to interpret as things that he desires.
yeah, yeah. Um, and but then it all goes really bad because Danny sees. I mean, no wonder Danny was terrified. Like at first, I'm like, okay, this whole scene is weird. But then when she turns into this like odious, like the makeup is amazing because there's like
Mhm.
sores all over her, and it's really a person inside. Like this is 1980, so there was no CGI in this. It was really, really gross and cool the way that they made her look horrible after looking so nice. Like,
Mhm. Yep.
but but I think, I don't know, this descent piece where every little piece to this puzzle starts to put together some sort of idea of, okay, well, this is how we feel about the Overlook Hotel. There's definitely something evil going on. Um, and then Jack just becomes completely kind of consumed by it. Um, I don't know. I feel like there's so much that happens in that middle piece that like helps chip away at the audience's belief that Jack is any like sane anymore. And so he completely like loses it on Wendy. Um and good for Shelley Duvall's character because she finally has enough and like hits him on the side of the head and is like, I'm gonna take you and put you in the freezer, like, or in the one of those standing refrigerators, right?
Yeah, he's locked up there, I think in the dry goods storage. That's where he gets put. Yeah, absolutely. You see his descent. You'll see his like quick to snap at Wendy here throughout the film, really. I mean, it does heighten
Yeah.
here, but I mean it's almost even on the drive up, you see kind of that there's a tension there already, which I think makes it all the more believable then as Jack goes on this descent and kind of in between all these I don't want to call them set pieces necessarily, but kind of interactions that Jack is having with various aspects of the hotel or with various aspects of his own psyche. There is a lot of quiet kind of tension building sort of a thing. So you're
Mm.
meant to feel as the audience member, kind of that similar sense of isolation. Of course, you get the all work and no play. It makes Jack a very dull boy. She sees that there's what he's been writing for pages and pages and pages, which is amazing because they're on actual pages, which meant that some PA had to type all of those out to get them ready for the scene, like thousands of these pages, which is pretty wild to think of in 1980. But yeah, it ends up getting knocked out and placed into that room there. Meanwhile, in Miami, we've got Dick, who has, I guess, had kind of his own premonition, right? He's able to kind of have these same visions, right? We learn as same as Danny. I don't think we actually see his vision, but prompts him to pick up the phone and call up to the police station and says, "Hey, can you go check on these people? Because that would be good." And ends up giving them a couple of calls and is not able to suffice the need of having them checked on. So he decides that he's going to go ahead and fly back early to Colorado. He talks to his friend who gets him a car to Boulder, I think, and then they're going to give him
Mm.
one of these snowcat things to drive up there. And that's an actual fact. If you're up like in the mountains of Colorado and they get a really bad snowstorm, they literally just close the road, right? Because they can't keep it clear. So just close it off so you can't get wherever you need to go. So he's going to get one of these snowcats and he's going to go and check in on this family himself. He knows that something bad is going down and something extra bad is about to go down once he gets there. He gets there and he finds out that the radio has been sabotaged. He finds out that the original snowcat has been sabotaged. And Jack even tells Wendy, he's like, "Good luck getting out of here, babe, because I already took care of all that stuff." Something that we would see echoed 2 years later in the thing, right? So where
Right?
the method of departure has been sabotaged by this person who's going on this slow mental decline. But he gets there, and that's really when we get to our culmination of the scene. One of the things I can never really wrap my head around in this film is Jack is locked in this room, right? And he gets let out by Grady, right? Grady basically comes and unlocks the door and lets him out. And I I've never been able to figure that out, like to to satisfy my own curiosity about it, because this whole time, right, we're sent on this path of, was that Jack Daniels real? Was the bartender real? Was the party real? Was the woman in 237, was she real? He really got left out of that room somehow. So has all of these events already happened? And we're seeing the ghost versions of all of these people replaying this thing. Is uh, Grady really like reincarnate there to open this door? What's happening? I can't figure it out. If you figured it out, let me know. I'm sure no one
Nope.
has really figured it out, and Reddit would tell me the same. But what do you think? What do you make of that, I guess?
I mean, I think that's the age-old idea that like, are you doomed? It's kind of like what could be playing out in like Macbeth, right? This idea that
Mm-hmm.
this story is going to be told. The Jack Torrance, right, of the story, or the Macbeth of the story, they're stuck in this web. There's no way they can get out of it. There's nothing they can do. And so whether, Jack Torrance was just a guy on edge that the Overlook Hotel sought out in the ether and picked and plucked from society and had this happen to, or whether it was predestined that it was always going to be this Jack Torrance, or, the idea that the Jack Torrances, there have been dozens and dozens of them that the hotel has called over time. I mean, there's so many theories about how this could be, but it is in this moment when we realize this cannot just be a descent into madness. Something else is there, right? Because at the beginning of this, you're as a human, you're like, well, is Jack just seeing these visions because he's having some sort of mental health breakdown, right? Um, I think that it is in this moment where once he basically commits to absolutely killing his kid and his wife, because that's what they say, right?
Mhm.
Grady is in on the other side, and he's like, "Do you understand? Like, if I'll let you out, but you really have to buckle down and punish these people because they can't keep you know they can't keep putting you in cages like this, right?" And he's like, "Oh no, I got it. I'll do it." And that's when the door opens and it's like, oh my gosh, what if this whole evil presence is really just plucking people out from society and having this terror bus just go over and over again? I don't know. And you're not, and that's the beauty of this whole thing is you're not supposed to know. And as Dick shows up, right? And he's like looking around. Um, you start to realize the genius that Stanley Kubrick put together when he showed you all the winding roads that a car going 50 or miles an hour, how long that lasted. And this guy
Mhm.
came up in a snowcat, so it could have taken him like 2 days. So he's
Oh yeah.
tired. It's like the end of this journey. And he's looking around and seeing all this stuff. And then he has, kind of faces off with whatever has possessed Jack Torrance.
Yeah, he faces off with that axe, that's for sure.
That's, yeah,
So he arrives there. Of course, Wendy has already made the decision to flee, right? As far as she knows, she has no idea that the help has arrived, right? She doesn't know that
right.
Halloran has arrived. She doesn't know that there's another snowcat there, but she knows that she needs to get out of the house. I guess braving it out in the snow is better than braving it off or facing off against Jack with the axe there. So she decides to make the move when she sees Red Rum written on the
Mm.
mirror there. She understands that Danny knows more than even Danny understands that he knows. So she's going to go and she's going to chase after Danny, try to find him in this big house. And at this point, of course, Wendy is seeing kind of all of these visions come to life in front of her own eyes. She sees the body of Halloran there, dead, and eventually gets Danny and lock themselves into a bathroom and trying to escape out of this very, very small window. Danny's able to escape, but Wendy's kind of stuck in there. And that's, of course, when you get the "Here's Johnny" line is that Axe comes smashing through the door. She gives him a cut on the hand. Good job, Wendy. She's going to sneak past him and get out of there. And Jack's going to go out and try to hunt down Danny in that hedge maze. Danny, smart kid. I love it so much. Had the forethoughts in the filming that Danny like brushes over his little footsteps right as he kind of backtracks into the hedgerow there, and Jack's unable to find him. Danny gets out, they get into the snowcat and leave, and they leave Jack to suffer the frosty fate that he has. It kind of ends on that close-up zoom of frozen Jack Nicholson, and then of course pulling out because you're not confused by what's happened enough in the last 2.5 hours. It pushes into a picture from 1921, and you see uh, Jack Torrance right there, front and center, smiling, having a good time at this ball. What?
What? From 1921. Yeah.
From
Um,
1921, not 1980, 1921.
nope. 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 It's so weird. Because he's obviously like this person apparently had some sort of connection to this place, but they don't, it doesn't explain anything. And I love it because I saw this probably when I was in my teens,
Mhm,
and it was one of the first times that I remember being watching the end of a film that did not explain everything. You just,
mhm.
and having to wrestle with that because I remember really my favorite aunt, she loves Stephen King books. She just loves spooky books. So she was like, we watched this together. And we watched the TBS version, so I missed a lot of the gore. But even then, I was like, I don't understand. Was it who? How did that even happen? I don't get it. Was it a like past lives thing? Was it a ghost thing? And she was like, "That's just you just never know, and that's why you read it again or you watch it again so that you can put together the clues to come up with the story of how this makes sense, right?" And even, gosh, it's 45 years today, this year anyway, right? This movie, and people are still debating it. And they're not just debating whether or not it's Kubrick saying he landed on the moon. They're debating the actual points of the story of like, is Jack just crazy? Is the Overlook Hotel just incredibly haunted? Were these people real?
Yeah.
How did and then the idea that there's, did Wendy and Danny get out? Do we know for sure that they even make it out? Because if this presence is like, I will not be denied, surely that it's going to um have something to do with that snowcat and them getting out down, because that's going to take days for them.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, for sure. I mean, do they make it out? Danny was the one that had kind of the ability to shine, right? Or understand that.
mhm.
So was he the one really that the hotel was trying to coax out? And as far as the picture goes, I've always imagined that that is meant to symbolize that Jack Torrance's soul has been claimed by the hotel, and that's just kind of that picture is just like its trophy case of souls that it has claimed over over the
Ooh.
decades. I would assume 1921. They make mention that I think they broke ground on the hotel in like 1909 or something, or 1907
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that. So 1921, which would have been about 20 years after that. So I'm guessing that that was probably one of the first like big parties they would have had at this, as the Gold Room was finished here,
Mm.
in addition to the hotel. So that's kind of where I've always left that there. And as far as leaving The Shining, people cannot leave The Shining. I mentioned it was not very well received when it first came out. It made money, but it was uh, not, lauded award
Mm.
wise. People like reviewers didn't really care for it, and I think part of that was because it does veer very far off of the book. So if you're expecting it to be more like the book, then you probably were going to be disappointed in it. I think, really, with any of Stanley Kubrick's movies, you could probably watch them, and if you're not in like the correct mental space for it, then you're probably going to be left wanting in some way or another, maybe wanting your time back. I don't know for sure. But over the years, of course, The Shining has come to be beloved not only as one of the best horror films of all time, but just one of the best films of all time, and certainly in terms of filmmaking, whether you like The Shining or not. Just looking at it, the symbolism, the way that it is shot, the way that the sound design works, is that big wheel rolls over the hardwood and onto the carpet for
Oh.
like a solid minute before you realize what is exactly making that sound. All of that, like it's an incredible like achievement in filmmaking, understandably. So that leads us to, I guess, kind of our experience with it. You already mentioned that you watched it young. Is this something that you revisit periodically? Is this the first time you've watched this in like 20 years? What's the deal with The Shining?
So the first time I watched it, I think it was with my aunt. Me and her love, we both love horror movies, and she also loves Stephen King. So she was like, "Oh, this is gonna be great." But I saw like the TBS version because it was what we recorded off of the TV, and so I missed, I don't know, 80% of this movie. I'm not gonna lie. The first time I saw it, I was like, "This is just this is kind of boring. I don't get it." I
Well,
was a teenager.
not only that, they probably had to cut it down to like 2 hours for it to have been on TV. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Though I mean, there was just there was the girl in the bathroom scene never happened. No idea. So all of a sudden, right? She's like, "How could you do this to Danny?" And I'm like, "Do what to Danny? What's wrong with Danny? I don't understand. He's just standing there. He seems fine. Like I don't get it." All of that. I missed a lot of it. So I will say I did rewatch this in my 20s or 30s, and then I kind of put it on a shelf because it is so unsettling. I really think that now that I'm entering the witching time, the 40s of the for being um yeah, this is my jam now because it's so creepy, it's so foreboding. I had forgotten how amazing this score was. I mean,
mhm.
it's a huge part of the way you feel about the Overlook Hotel and this whole um, kind of situation that happens. Like, is it a descent into madness? Is it a descent into, like you say, this soul claiming entity? Like, I don't know which one is worse. Which is
Right.
probably the point. It's so good. So
It,
I haven't watched it in a while, but I was glad we did for this one because this definitely falls into creepy, haunted, scariness.
yeah, 100%. I same as you. I wouldn't have watched it like that young. So I think the first time I saw it was probably the actual like cut of it, I guess, probably on DVD or VHS or something along those lines, kind of late on. And it's a film that I like a lot. I don't watch it. I don't watch it all the time. It is pretty long, so it's hard to kind of justify putting this one on instead of like a 90 minute like Halloween or something like that to come every Halloween season. But I mean, it's monumental, and I do go back and revisit it probably every like 4 or 5 years, and I'll probably continue to do so. I really loved watching it more analytically this time, as opposed to when I watched it probably analytically when I was like 20, like trying to get really into film. It was interesting to do that and see the parallels. Of course, I picked out the one from The Thing, which was a film we just talked about last week. So that was or a couple of weeks ago. So that was still kind of fresh in my brain there. The Sabotage. I was immediately
Mm,
thrown into season one of American Horror Story,
mm.
where you have the maid who goes through a similar kind of transformation as the lead character, the husband, and that story is going through a similar kind of psychotic break, kind of as
Hmm.
Jack Torrance and this as well. So I mean, there's a ton. You go to like the Wikipedia page, and like the influence in popular culture section is like longer than the whole rest of the
Yeah.
entry about The Shining. So I mean, it's monumental in a lot of ways, and it had its anniversary, so we wanted to cover it this year. It didn't quite make it into the Halloween occasion, but maybe it's okay to start it here in December. There is also another kind of Reddit theory thread you can go down where they liken The Shining as a Christmas movie, which is not something I particularly prescribe to, but I do think that it is an interesting uh, kind of discussion to have. There you can read about that, but basically it comes down to this is shot over the winter, so almost certainly they spent Christmas here at the hotel. It is a family story, and basically the color schemes and iconography of everything in the hotel is either red or green or the glittery gold ballroom there. So is this really Stanley Kubrick's Christmas film? I don't know. You let us know out there for sure. So, Michaela, any parting thoughts here about The Shining before we get into full-on holiday season next week?
No. I mean, I think my nervous system needs a break, so I'm really excited to have some to open up holiday season and really dig into some Christmas cheer because after that, I mean, oof, I definitely think this film yeah, it's one of the most epic of kind of thrillers um, that I've ever that you know ever because of all of its pulp culture. So it's definitely worth your time if you've not seen it. Stop living under a rock, go see it. And if you have seen it, please post. Let us know what you think. Well, let us know what we missed because I feel like there's a lot of gatekeeping to be had around Shining lore in general. So tell us where we went wrong. If you've had a cocktail at the Stanley Hotel or something similar, a Redrum Punch, we'd love to hear about that as well.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear about that on any of our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. Send us your cocktail recommendations. Send us what movies you're watching. We want to hear all of that stuff. If you want to see what we're drinking, recipes for all of the episodes, episode recaps, links to the merchandise shop, to Drink the Video Games, all that stuff can be found on the website. It's www.drinkthemovies.com. You can go there, and there's also a link to our Patreon, which is the best place to support the podcast. We do bonus episodes, cocktail chats, hangouts, behind the scenes stuff. All that stuff can be found on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/drink the movies. Michaela, we are getting into our holiday season full on this coming up week. So people are going to want to do
Mm.
that. I did not commit to watching a bunch of Hallmark Christmas movies, but maybe one or two of those will slip in. We'll see. We'll see. So people are going to want to follow along and make sure they're getting the podcast, getting the lobby bar. That's going to help everyone with cocktails throughout the whole holiday season. Make sure that we have something good to drink on a weeknight as we de-stress from the the shopping and cold and traffic, all that stuff. So where can they follow along with the pod?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Good Pods. Anywhere, actually, where Spotify podcasts are distributed and supported. We are so grateful for all of your listeners, all your listenership. If you're liking what you're hearing, awesome. press the subscribe button, press the like button. There's a place where you can leave a review on all of our platforms. The more you do that, the more the community builds itself. It is the coolest job in the world to get to talk to you all about movies and cocktails. And if you love video games, even if you don't love video games, you should go check out Drink the Video Games. Brian does an amazing job. I pop in to give you all a drink, and then he talks about all the cool things and games that have been played throughout the entire video game history. It's really actually very cool. So check that out. Yeah, check out all the things. Drink the movies.
All right, absolutely. And thank you so much for that plug there. I appreciate it. And thank you all out there for listening to us talk about The Shining. Let us know what your thoughts are on the movie. Let us know what cocktails we should be mixing up. And we'll talk to you next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
movies.
Movies. You didn't say, here's Johnny, not even once. Can't believe it.
I didn't. Because I knew that this moment would occur. Here's Johnny. Never been so scared and like terrified of a Johnny Carson show, and I never knew why until that scene, which I think might have also been cut out of the TBS version. I don't know. I
Nah,
don't know
there's
what
no
I
way
saw
that
when I
was
was
cut.
like 12. I was
That's
like,
like
I don't know what's happening.
it was just the drive to the hotel, and then it was over.
Dun, dun, dun.